and Extra ALS will terminate at 4 p.m. on March 21st. So there'll be no lapse in service, which is a good thing. Other than that, I will remain on the working group for that committee or steering committee, whatever you want to call it, for the remainder of this year and probably as long as we have that service available. So it's a good thing. It will help people in the area for years to come, hopefully. And a couple of the board members were at the meeting. I don't know if they want to add anything that I may have forgotten.
No, I was just looking through my notes that I took. So I guess after, where is the service located from? It's out of Brentwood.
So there'll be one vehicle with 2 medics out of Brentwood and then 1 vehicle with 1 medic out of Plastow.
And that's not set in stone for the duration. They're going to evaluate that?
Yeah, so basically the Plastow Fire Chief, who's kind of the operations manager, he's very open to discussions on where the service is best suited, meaning if Brentwood isn't the place to be and, you know, maybe west or east or south or north, you know, to best suit the needs of each community that is involved. The reason why there's going to be one in Plastow is because the town of Atkinson will be buying into the service as well. So to kind of keep one down there, the one that's in Plastow will still be available for Kingston, Brentwood, Epping. You know, it's an intercept service, so they're available to go to any of the towns that sign up. But yeah, depending on, there's a lot of fluidity, meaning we don't know what towns are going to be signing up this year, next year, you know, year to year. It's going to be a 1-year contract signed previous to January 1st. So depending on our budgets, will be, you know, the end of this year for next year. As I've stated in previous meetings, we do have the ambulance revolving fund that we can utilize if for some reason there's a gap in service for going default for a year budget-wise. So we do have some pitfalls that we can access.
Do you anticipate the possibility of, between the Attorney General and Janet Stevens, of the program staying at the hospital after March? No. So Beth Israel, who has taken over Exeter Hospital, wants nothing to do with this service. So we have, through Janet Stevens, the executive counselor, and the AG's office, we have secured $2 million to make the first year free for communities. But I know Janet is still going to continue to work. There is I forget the name of the trust fund at the state level that has about $8 million a year, I believe. So she's going to continue to try to secure funding for that business model for years to come to help offset some of the costs to the town as well.
Chief, so I understand that Exeter Hospital is not taking any more patients right now. What's been your feeling or your feedback on this new facility down in Plastow across from Cumberland Farms? I hear a lot of positive things, but you deal with those people quite often? For
the standalone emergency room?
Yeah, that visit. I mean, just so people in town kind of know. Any kind of feedback on that place?
Exeter Hospital still accepts patients.
Okay.
For right now. Who knows what 5 or 10 years is going to look like. The standalone emergency room in Plastow is corresponding with Parkland Hospital over in Derry. There's also a standalone ER in Seabrook, which is part of Portsmouth Hospital. Both, I've gone to both personally and had nothing but good things to say. The one over in Seabrook has a wait time on their billboard, and it's usually no more than like 6 minutes. So the one in Plastow I went to, it was like 3:30 in the morning, but I was in and out in about 35 minutes. So we do transport patients to both facilities in Seabrook and in Plastow. So again,
I don't know what the plan is for Exeter Hospital in the next 5 or 10 years, but it's not looking good.
Thank you.
For us, for the community.
So if you prefer to be directed to the Portsmouth Hospital, for example, we should let our ambulance service know that we want to be going to the Seabrook station as opposed to the, because you hear things about different facilities, and if an individual has a preference, we need to let you guys know.
Yeah, so when we get on scene, our job is to transport to the most closest appropriate facility.
Right.
So usually traumas and strokes go to Portsmouth in Portsmouth. You know, the problem with the standalone ERs is they're great for a stub toe, maybe difficulty breathing, you know, some of the more minor illnesses and ailments, but they can't admit you there. So if you go to the hospital and you're going to be admitted, then they need to transfer you from Plastow or Seabrook to their main hospital.
Gotcha.
Or to a different hospital. But yes, when we get on scene, if your request is to go to Plastow and we deem it appropriate, then we will absolutely bring that patient to Plastow.
Okay. Thank you.
The only other thing, thank you to I know there's really nobody here from the Budget Committee, but the Budget Committee and the Select Board, we made it through so far another Budget Committee budget season. So thank you to everybody that made that possible, and I look forward to Saturday deliberative session being as smooth as possible.
From your lips. Other questions that you, yes, go ahead.
Just to follow up, I was one of the other select board members who attended the meeting down in over in Exeter about the intercept service, and it was really good to see the level of effort that has taken place among the chiefs, and led by the Plastow chief, I guess. But the plan that was laid out was really comprehensive. Really well thought out, I thought anyway, from my perspective, for such a critical service for our community and the surrounding communities, that to sort of pick the ball up and run with it like you guys did, I think was really incredible, and I want to thank you for that. As you said, there's a lot of unknowns. I mean, the program is funded for the first year. We don't know after that. I mean, it's a all bets are off at that point, and we'll just have to play it as it goes and see. But anyway, just wanted to.
And I know Peter brought it up last week at the warrant article hearing with the fire department requesting support for 2 new paramedic firefighters. Again, the only way to ensure that any interruption of service, paramedic level service, doesn't happen in Kingston ever, is to try to keep it in-house per se. So the Budget Committee and the Select Board, thank you, do support that addition of 2 paramedics. But it's also my job as the fire chief to monitor costs and any issues pertaining to response times and everything in between. So I will constantly and consistently monitor that throughout the years to come. Between the ALS service and in-house paramedics and vice versa, and what works, what doesn't work, and again, it's kind of a fluid situation all around. But
No.
Thank you, Chief.
thank you.
Any other questions? Tammy Bakey, our favorite town clerk in Texas.
Good morning, and welcome, Tom. The filing for candidacy ends this Friday. I will be in my office from 3 to 5 to take any last-minute filings. There are lots and lots of positions open. If you know anyone that wants to be on the Budget Committee or a trustee, we have lots of positions open. And deliberative session is this Saturday. Look forward to seeing you all there. March 11th is the election. It will be held at Swayze Gym. We are in the midst of training for the new poll pads and the new tabulators, the ballot counting devices, so we have a lot going on downstairs. After the election, I was hoping the selectmen would give me the opportunity to hold a little class again at the next department head meeting regarding meetings and minutes for any incoming new members of boards and committees, and it's just a little tutorial on what we need.
Yeah.
So we did it a couple years ago, and I think it worked well, but we do have a lot of new faces on the boards and committees. Delinquent notices for taxes will be sent out this Thursday or Friday. We have about $701,000 there's outstanding in tax. Yeah.
That's a big number.
Yep. Yep. So.
Is that above average?
I was gonna ask, is that?
I believe it is above the norm. You know, some of this is from 2022, 2023, and then 2024, we have 5.5, so, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, it doesn't surprise me after
Assessment.
after the current, the current revaluation, reassessment hit a lot of people very hard. So it doesn't surprise me, but it is a big number.
And then last but not least, dog licensing. We have 1,353 dogs to license from now until April 30th. The fire department and the fire auxiliary are working together to host a rabies clinic. When we have a date, I'll let you know, but the town clerk's office will be there to license dogs at the same time they get their rabies. And 1,353 as of this morning. So, but it's not, those haven't been licensed, but they're not due till April 30th, so they have the next couple months. We'll start sending, we send out emails in January, we send out 1, in February we send out 2 or 3, March we'll send them out once a week to anyone that we have an email for, and then we try to make it known at the election, any way we can to get people to license their dogs.
Tammy, when it comes to the elections, have you, did you put in a facilities request yet for next year to use the gym?
I only have 2 dates that I'm aware of. They haven't set the date for the primary, the state primary, but
Normally
yes.
the primary-
I gave those dates to Susan. She had asked me for
We
them.
need to get that facilities request ASAP.
That's what they said.
Because they're setting the calendar with 8 other districts. Because of the Seacoast Technology School of Technology, they have to set the calendar this far in advance. So rather than run into a problem with the gym again, let's get it on the books.
I'll put in the 2 that I have.
Yes,
And why not put in the tentative third one, which is normally the Tuesday after Labor Day, as a tentative?
that's true, but they are talking about doing it in August.
Okay,
So
all right, let's
we,
get back to doing that
yeah,
again.
right. Yeah, so, and we did meet, Ellen and Tom and I met with the school board down at the gym to try and see if we
Was Dan
can,
Doyle there also?
I'm sorry.
Was Dan there as well?
Dan was there,
Good,
yep, so just talk about the facility itself and, moving it, making a little room for us, and if we have enough electrical cords and all that. The one thing I'm concerned about is the lighting, so, Tom and I are talking about maybe finding some lighting outside in the parking lot, because there's not a lot of lights.
No, or renting.
Right.
I think you should look into renting it and making sure we have that, because it's really dark, still dark out in March at night, and we need to have that well lit, especially with potential construction and potholes
Right.
and all that other stuff. So we may have to spend more money to get it lit well enough for us to see to get out at night, or for voters to get in as
Right.
well.
I haven't driven in there to see if any of the spaces, parking that we used to use has now been consumed by some of the fencing and demolition, the work that's been done. No? Okay. So, is there any thought that we might need to use any additional space across the street at Bakey?
It's usually not that well attended.
It's not like the presidential election where you had over 4,000 voters. If
Right.
we had 1,000, we'd be real happy.
Right. I would love to say that we're gonna have overflow in baking, but I don't believe that.
We could take a look at it, Glenn, the tennis courts are now gone too, there's just nothing but a flat parking lot. They're gone, the fence is gone, the surface is gone, everything's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I think there's gonna be enough parking down there.
It'll be fine,
Yeah,
yeah.
just to take a look at that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Tammy? Thank you. Melissa?
Hi, good morning, everybody. So big news, I have plans in hand for the library's outdoor community center. It's going to be a big year of fundraising. We've got 2 grants going out this week, 3 going out next month, and every month thereafter we've got 2 or 3 going out. The Library Foundation has been working hard on writing them. The architect is now putting together 3D pictures to show what it's going to look like. I don't have a ton, but I do have some if anyone's interested. We're looking for private business donations and individual donations as much as we can get, obviously. We're going to be selling bricks, and the trustees are trying to decide how much to charge people who want to buy bricks that will be personalized. I talked to all the department heads who will be involved in this process, who might be affected, like highway department and the mowing and all that. I talked to the town planner, the town engineer. Everybody seems all set with what we're doing. We are going to go through the planning board process, mainly for an extended parking lot that's going to head back. It's going to go straight back towards where the woods are and the solar panels, but we want to make sure the runoff and the runoff off new sidewalks is appropriate. It's going to be a permeable parking lot, so that should help with the runoff, but that was the only concern that the engineer and planner had. Yeah, so we're very excited about that, and we'll be, as I get these 3D pictures in, we'll start promoting them and putting them up so people can see what it's going to look like. It's neat that they can do that with those pictures. Other news, we've just program news. We have this Thursday at 11 o'clock as part of our older adult seminar, but everybody's invited. It's another Avoiding Online Fraud. We had the chief here before to talk about that. We had Partners Bank in to talk about that. Now we're going to have some tech experts. It's just such a big subject, and it's always changing, so we want to keep the community as up to date as possible on that issue. We're starting a new program in March. It's going to be a book club for teens with special needs. We're also starting a quarterly music program beginning, I think, in March, which will be sponsored by the Library Friends. They agreed to sponsor that. And then in March, we're going to have an estate planning seminar, probably with Edward Jones. But I'm working with some people. So we've got some fun programs going on, but that's our big news, and it's pretty exciting.
I'm sure you're very excited about it.
I am excited. We also, have more work to do. So.
What about
We're lucky to.
the cemetery?
Oh, thank you. I forgot. Yeah, we've been the library, the museum, the Heritage Commission, and others have been. The cemetery. Have been working together on the 300th anniversary of the cemetery. May 31st, I believe, we're going to have a big celebration, and we're having 3 exhibits. Right now, there's an exhibit at the library, and we had an opening where I spoke about what cemeteries mean to a community, why they're important, and that's available online on YouTube through the library site, and I believe it's going to be on the town website if it's not already. But we had about 40 people attend. There was a lot of buzz. We have a cemetery we should really be proud of, and there's a lot of interesting things there, so people should check out what the Heritage Commission is doing and participate if you can.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Melissa? Ms. Abby Sarkowski, Recreation.
Hi. There's not a whole ton going on right now. I'm still trying to get my foot in the door, and we're looking to plan more events. We have a movie night coming up February 22nd, and then I'm looking to also start the senior coffees again on Fridays from 9 to 12. We're probably going to start once a month just to see how it goes, and then see if I can add more. Summer camp, we're starting the process of that. I'm actually meeting with the camp doc person tomorrow, so I can get a better idea. The assistant director has been taking care of the camp stuff, and some things have fallen through the cracks, so I just want to get on board so we're not inundated in the summer. Other than that, we're starting the process of counselors as well, getting the counselors from last year, seeing who's coming back, and then hiring new counselors once we get that number set. But that's about it. Nothing crazy.
Questions for Abby? Yes, go ahead.
Not a question, just a comment that the select board has an appointment sheet, and we're in the process of signing it for a new Recreation Commission member who apparently attended the last meeting and was pretty excited and has requested to be on the committee. So that's in the folder, and it's in the process of being signed off on.
Yeah, she seems excellent. She's been in contact with me. She is trying to help out with whatever she can, and I can use all the help I can get at this point. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm trying to get more people to join us as well. We lost a few people, so I want to get as big as we can get. The more hands, the better. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Her name is Samantha Snow.
Samantha Snow, yep.
Welcome her aboard, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marissa Federico.
Hello, good morning, everybody. I don't have anything particularly exciting. There has been a little bit of an uptick in homeless people reaching out, or people at risk of being homeless. So I'm working on that, more to follow on that. And I did want to thank the DPW, because Steve and Rich did an awesome job making some shelves for me finally for all the toys I have back there. So thank you guys for putting the time into that. That's about it.
Thank you. Questions for Marissa? Go.
Good morning. 1351. Hank moved out of town 2 weeks ago. He moved to Epsom, if you want to track him down. So anyhow, cleared that up. All right, so the stairs update isn't really an update of any significance. Where they're waiting for the masons. Last week it was cold. This week
Cold again.
yeah. So, but like I said to Larry, the site supervisor, I'd rather not in 0-degree weather have a mason here doing. I don't need any headaches. Just do it when it's, and they're having to heat the, so.
Right.
We'll see. This week I'll be in touch with Larry, and hopefully it'll be starting. The other major setback would be the septic at the police station has an issue. There seems to be we had it snaked by a professional company, and we had snaked it previously to that. The line from the tank to the leach field is, it was full of sludge, and we believe it's crushed. But to confirm it, we need to find the leach field. We sent, DES has the original, but it was submitted but never approved. So if they don't approve a leach field after 4 or 5 years, they just throw it in the circular file. So I was hoping to find an as-built so I could find the D-box, and I was hoping it would be at least above 30. We have an idea. Peter helped me out with a metal detector. I believe we cross our fingers. So if I find that, you can determine if the field has been compromised with the sludge down the pipe. And then you can access both points to really pinpoint, because it may be crushed on the other side of the garage too. We don't know. We can only go so far. So in the meantime, we're monitoring the tank. We'll pump it as necessary until the problem's resolved. So got some ideas, but there needs to be a lot more put into it. And Ernie and I have been meeting, as far as the Nichols goes, we've picked a contractor that I think is gonna be suitable to get the door refinished probably in March or April, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was towards the nicer weather. And my only question was that is for the board was that it's if I remember right, it's about $4,700 for that door to be refinished and done properly. Would that be coming from? I know the roof is coming from the.
They're both coming from the same place.
Both? Okay. That was my question. So that clears that up. The other thing I was going to mention is we've been in discussions with this year's paving for New Boston Road is on the docket. Newton is doing one end of New Boston Road, so it makes sense to do it all in one shot. We've had Bell and Flynn for the last 3 years. I would prefer not to go out to bid this year just because it'd be more cohesive to have them do the whole stretch. And that's, I believe, would be a board decision because, I mean, the last time the contract went out was in 2022. It was a yearly contract, and we've renewed the last 2 years with them. But tying that New Boston Road in, I think it'd be a wise decision.
Is the other part of New Boston Road is Newton, right?
Yeah.
And they'd be using Bell and Flynn?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
It makes sense to do the whole thing.
And they're a great company to work with.
Silly to have two separate contractors and
And
meeting
even,
in the middle.
exactly, and we have traditionally gone with Bell and Flynn, regardless because of the quality of the work.
Quality and price.
And the price, yeah, it's been a combination.
I just didn't, I wanted to make sure we're,
On the same page.
yeah. Other than that, that's, I think
It's
we'll
a good
cover it.
start, huh?
Yeah.
When we get this on the record, should we make an official vote or recommendation for Bell and Flynn, so we don't have to revisit this again, so we know that's
Well,
what
it
it's
should
gonna
be, it should be reflected in the minutes that the board will work with Bell and Flynn on completing the New Boston Road paving project.
So I think it's a more global question that maybe Peter's asking, and that is whether we're just saying to go ahead and use Bell and Flynn for New Boston Road, or for any new in 2025, are we using Bell and Flynn?
Correct.
Yes,
Extending their current contract.
extending that contract, that's a good way. Why don't you have a motion to extend the current contract?
I make a motion to extend the current contract with Bell and Flynn to continue paving for Kingston roads
For 2025.
for 2025.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. So you're all set. Thank you. Questions for Tom?
We're using chip seal?
And then there's Chief Joel Johnson, Police Chief.
So, status quo with PD, other than the septic system. But I think we'll probably get that squared away. On that, we're busy. We've already had, I think, 18 arrests this year already. Had a burglary, which we haven't had in a long time, where some guns were stolen. We did get the individual, but we don't know where the guns are. So that's in the process right now. We got ATF involved, so I think we'll do all right with that. We had a snowmobile accident, DWI related, last week. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. My administrator is going on vacation for a week, and we're going to use, Tammy's going to let us use Shannon, thank you very much. I knew her name, I know. So the PD we covered at the phones and the radio, so that's it. starting out the year just wonderful.
Thank you, Chief. Questions for the chief? Glenn?
Chief,
What's that?
how's the hiring process going?
So, fully staffed. I hired 2 part-timers, uncertified officers. Unfortunately, they can't be in a car alone, so I'm still too short-handed on that end. I have 1 officer who's out on medical leave. I don't think he'll be back till maybe March if I'm lucky, so then I'm 3 down. I got a part-timer who's out on double knee surgery. Perfect timing.
It's not-
So we're struggling with the schedule, but we'll be fine.
Okay, so
We'll make it happen.
you're still shorthanded and struggling.
Very short-handed,
Yeah,
but we'll get through it.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Okay. Let's move on to liaison reports. Peter?
I have nothing at this time.
Chuck?
Nor do I.
The only thing I have is the RFQ for curbside pickup has gone to the attorneys. I haven't heard back yet from them. We want to affirm that the RFQ is for trash pickup only, and that we're going to try to make the collection center work this next year accordingly. It may or may not. We're hoping it does, but depending on the costs and so forth and volunteers. But just to let you know that we're just waiting to hear back from the attorneys, and then we'll have a chance to take a look at it and we'll go forward. We will need to verify the tonnage, and since we voted not to have recycling, that tonnage is going to go up, and make sure we get the right prices in there. It's going to go up because everything's going to be in one as opposed to in 2 different barrels. Okay, that's all I have at this time. Mr. Koppelman.
I have one thing for this part of the agenda, and it relates to the Recreation Committee. I am the liaison to that group according to when we reorganized ourselves back in March of last year. And I realize we're going to be reorganizing in another month or so, but in the meantime, we have a brand new director on board for the department, and having a liaison who can be as active and participatory as that person probably should have is really the right thing to do. And because I have a standing board meeting for another activity regarding the Planning Commission on the same night as the Recreation Commission meets, I could never attend those. And when Paul Butler was in Abby's seat, I mean, he was pretty much rolling and on top of things, and he would just talk to me and converse with me if there were any issues. So, attending the commission meetings was not as important. Now, I think it's more important that we have a liaison there just for support and continuity. And so I had mentioned this to Lori, and she volunteered to sit in on the last committee meeting for me in my stead. And I think that went okay from what I heard the report I got back. And I would like to ask the board that for between now and the time that we reorganize, if we reassign someone to, and hopefully Lori would agree to do that, to be the liaison for the rec department. Then come reorganization again in March, all bets are off, and we'll be open again for discussion. But for the meantime, I'd like to ask if the board would support my recommendation that Lori be the liaison to the Recreation Department.
Is there any objection? Can't imagine.
Well,
Any other votes?
Well, I'm in total agreement that she needs somebody. She doesn't, that's not what I meant to say. That's recommendation, and then when we revisit the recommendation nominations again this March, then we can talk about it again, about how everything's working out, but I think that's a great idea.
Every department needs a liaison, so it's not just you. Great, no, that's no problem at all. Thank you for doing that, Laurie, appreciate it.
Thank you, Lori.
Any other building liaisons? We're good?
Yeah, I have a couple things. So you,
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Ellie mentioned briefly about the solid waste and recycling. We have a meeting this Thursday, the 30th at 6:30. It's an out-of-cycle meeting, but we had a great brainstorming a few weeks ago, and we want to do follow-up on that for our next step, because we have a lot of work to do this year to figure out the viability, right, of expanding the collection center. So please join us. We need all the ideas and assistance we can get. So hopefully, we didn't have quorum last time. If we have quorum this time, then we can start assigning tasks and everybody can agree on the way to move forward. So it's an out of cycle, but it's 6:30 at DPW. And then the website, the long anticipated website. I believe Caitlin sent an email last week requesting feedback, and that's due Wednesday. We hope to go live on Saturday, so that would be the 1st of February. I'm confident in saying that the content is probably 90%. The layout, a lot of stuff is hard-coded, and we didn't realize that till we tried to, we'd like this color, and we'd like this, and they said no. So, but we're okay with that, but, so the layout and the organization is set. It's really updating your pages. So if you haven't looked at your pages, please do so and provide feedback. Some decisions will be made in lieu of feedback. So please just we want to make sure the content is right. And that's the only thing that will really be changed. Content changes anyway, right? We want to keep it current. So the feedback's due Wednesday. I can't say thank you enough to Caitlin Milholm, who has been doing the lion's share of the work. And Robin Carter, we've had a lot of great feedback from representatives, and so this hasn't been done in a bubble. I just want to make sure everybody knows that we've had a lot of work go into it, so I hope everybody likes it.
Caitlin's done a great job.
Amazing, yeah.
She really has.
Yeah.
And I actually went onto the site
Yeah.
and found things. I've been a select board member for 5 years, and I had a hard time finding things, but I didn't have any trouble on this new site.
Isn't it nice?
It was awesome.
It's clean
It was
looking,
awesome.
it's easy to navigate,
Yeah,
and
it was.
taking into account people look for data different ways, so we had to make sure that you could get it from more than
A couple
one
of different
way.
ways, yeah.
So,
She did a great job, and
yeah,
thank her
it's
for
really good.
us.
So,
She really did.
Then we can take to the next level, put more information on.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
just gonna grow, so, I mean, it's a great way to launch, and it's just gonna grow with content as we get feedback from the public, because they're the ones that are using it, right, in theory, so.
We still need a point person for the website. I mean, that's critical. We need to talk about that. We have not really followed up on that. And we need an audiovisual. We have some needs here that, to be able to reach the public.
And I agree, you need the audiovisual, but Caitlin still would like to continue to. she
And
said
that's
a lot
great. I
of
mean,
work, but-
absolutely. No objection to that at all.
As long as we have the support, right, from her department head, for sure, I mean, yeah, and she really has expressed that she
She's
really
done a
likes
great
doing
job
it.
and deserves
Yeah.
that. She likes to stay with, I think she should.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No question.
Could I add one thing?
Sure.
I apologize, I'm just new enough the press. This is from our building inspector. He's home watching this meeting online, live. He is sick today, but he wanted to bring the board up to what's going on. We currently have 60 new applications. Within the next few weeks, we will have we will have the online payment system ready to train, and the next week it will be live taking payments. 3 new applications were submitted today. He'll keep us posted. So that's just to let you know.
Lori,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, when you want to get out information, like the recycling information, you can put it in the library newsletter. We have a community section, and that reaches a couple thousand people, so.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
I have one more question on the website.
Sure.
Do we know if the email sign-up stuff was able to move over to the new website?
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
That's the last.
Well, I know
was the
that
last
was
thing.
kind of an unknown as we were going through this process, and but I didn't know at what point we'd know for sure whether or not it did. And,
all right, so right now it has not, so it's got to go live before
Yep.
we can see if it's going to work.
okay,
We'll take one thing at a time.
okay, thank you.
Any other? All right, then I'll open up the meeting to public comment, and our department heads are welcome to stay as we continue on the meeting or not, as the case may be. Thank you all for coming. It's been a good morning.
Thank you, see you Saturday.
Yes, you will. The deliberative session starts at 9. Right here in your friendly town hall that looks so nice and clean these days. Thank you, Tom and staff. Any public comment at this time? No? Then let's move on to old biz, unfinished, I hate old biz, unfinished business. A warrant article for town administrator. Okay, who would like to start that parade?
Why don't I start at least by handing out a draft of what, or would you just like to have discussion first?
Well, you can hand out I have a problem, is that the draft with the chief administrative officer phrases in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that one, but you can hand it out.
Well, okay. Then, before I hand it out then, let's have
talk
it,
in
let's
general.
talk about it.
Okay.
So at the, at budget session number 2, where we were talking warrant articles, we read the wording that we thought we would propose as a warrant article. And during that discussion, there was questions by folks about some of the wording of that. You know, well, what does that position mean, and so forth and so on. And so I took it upon myself, yes,
Yes, you did, yes, you did.
not with the intent of it being the last and final word, but, you know, we're a board of 5, and obviously we're all going to participate in it and come up with something. But it's usually easier to start with a draft and then work with that, scratch it out, change things, and so I chose to do that. Okay. You can slap me if you want to, Peter. You can slap me if you want to. That's fine.
No.
That's fine. Well, no, I heard from Peter, and he wasn't happy about it, so I
can't get to slap you either?
well, you can if you want. You can. Anyway, it's easier for a group to work with something that's already there, rather than trying to make sausage right from scratch with 5 people sitting at a table. Okay. So my thought, after listening to the discussion at budget session number 2, was that we haven't promoted this very much to this point. It's a really important position for the town. And whatever we put out there in the words in the warrant article should be reflective of what that position is going to be. So, and what role that person is going to perform. Duties, function. It's not a job description, so let's make sure we understand that.
Right.
But yet descriptive enough so that when someone goes into the voting booth, they can look at it and say, oh, okay, and now I understand. Because I got from the discussion at the budget hearing that, from some people anyway, that it was not clear enough what the position was. So that's where I came out with this, and so.
I think it was more of we're not recreating the position. Well, we are the name of a administrator, but I don't understand why it was the name change, I guess.
Well, it's not. What we're looking to do is create a position and hire a town administrator who has these roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, but you had the word chief, and I did not like that at all. So, no offense, Florida, right out, that really pissed
That's
me
fine,
off.
I'm gonna.
Examples.
I'm gonna.
in your packet. And there's actually 2 towns who call it that, and, the term chief administrative officer actually was said during that budget hearing as an example.
Yeah, but to me, it sounds too formal, and I just didn't like, I want to leave it as town administrator, who is responsible for supervising, directing this, yada, yada, yada. That's what the piece I didn't like.
Okay, so just taking that out of it,
To raise the $130,000 to fund the position, reporting to the selectmen, the town administrator will be responsible for supervising, directing the administration of all town departments and carrying out the policies enacted by the board. Will serve as a day-to-day point of contact for all department heads, that's kind of repetitive, but manage town hall operations, perform contract administration, assist with preparation of the annual budget, and manage expenditures within the budget, seek appropriate grants and funding opportunities to help reduce the financial burden on taxpayers, and provide reports to the select board as required by law, requested by the board, or deemed necessary by the administrator. It's a little wordy, but it's not bad, but if you could take that section out, will be the chief administrative officer of the town. I just don't like that. It sounds too formal and too something, I don't know, because it's a big leap. And I didn't mind the flavor of the original article, because for those of you at home who are not aware, this was intended to be a petitioned warrant article that missed the deadline by 24 hours. And rather than not give the voters an opportunity to act on this, we put it in as a select board article. So in some ways, the flavor of the original Article 20 is, or now 19, is fine with me, but I'm okay with this one, with that one exception.
Just to follow on, I mean, it is true that this was originally going to be submitted as a petition warrant article by a citizen, missed the deadline, but I really don't think that it's inappropriate for us as the select board to be putting this forward, because
Correct. I agree.
We, probably better than a lot of other people, recognize that we need some professional management and organization in the town. And for it to fall on this board, that's a very part-time board of 5 people, it's tough to handle day-to-day stuff by this board. So, and we've grown to a size that, you know, I think we need that kind of professional management.
We are long overdue for a town administrator. It's not even a question in my mind, and we do need help because we are part-timers as a board. It makes it, when you look at the school district, they have way too many administrators, but that's a discussion for another day. But they certainly have the superintendent and a number of administrative team that really runs the day-to-day, and the school board makes decisions on policies and procedures, and it's implemented by the superintendent and his or her staff. And that's what we need to get our town ready to do as well, that we have a go-to person that becomes, that reports directly to the board. That's not to say that the department heads still aren't going to interact. That's why we were going for town administrator as opposed to town manager, because we still want the small town feel of a team spirit, cooperation between and through departments, and we do a great job of that as a rule in this town, and I don't want to change that flavor. We're still a small town, even though we're really a big town, to have no administrator on site. So
right, and as under a town administrator, the select board still sets the policies and the direction.
Correct.
Whereas under a town manager function, it would be different. But,
right, and we'll get there somewhere someday.
well, not necessarily.
Not in my time.
Probably not in our lifetime, but
No.
you never know.
That's true. That's true. Other
So,
comments?
we're good with this, with the exception of taking out the chief administrative officer of the town?
Yeah. Chuck, how do you feel? Did you want it? We could condense a little more, but not by a lot. What I would recommend that if we're gonna make any changes, now is the time so that come Saturday, we have a substitute article to hand to the moderator.
Yes.
Already written up, ready for distribution to the audience that's there. Makes it nice and
So
simple.
that was kind of the idea of drafting this now, so that.
Right.
We don't have the discussion.
So,
right?
so that it, I mean, we can have
We
discussion
don't
about
wanna
it.
wordsmith it
Yeah, we
necessarily,
don't want to
right.
wordsmith it then.
Right.
But I think to Glenn's point, we have to make sure that people understand, this is not a job description, because but
That's
this
correct.
gives more meat to voters to say, $130,000, what are they gonna be doing? Well, they're gonna be responsible for these 6 things generally, without it being a full job description.
Right. And this may not be implemented this year, but we know that the following year that we'll probably be putting it into the budget as a position, because we have the responsibility as a board to do that. We've acceded to our voters and gone back to ask for permission on any permanent jobs, positions, but we're beyond that point. We have responsibilities as a select board to meet the obligations of the town, and we can't do it on a half-hearted basis. How's that for cleaning it up a bit?
Yeah. So with regard to that second sentence, then, if we say reporting to the select board, the town administrator is responsible for?
Or will be.
Or will be responsible for?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's the only, yes, we're taking out just the chief administrative officer part.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to take action on that? Formal action, that this becomes a substitute article for Article 20? Okay, in a second?
Second? Yes.
Okay, you moved and seconded.
Were you making that motion, Peter?
Yeah, Peter, and Chuck seconded. Any further discussion?
And this is what we'll bring forth during deliberative session?
Correct. And have some clean copies, and Susan, you have a number of copies so that we could distribute to the audience as well as to the moderator. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Unanimous. Yep, yep. Great.
1 second, I'm just
Sure.
looking for a clarification. So I'm new at this, right? So I'm just asking, we were requested to go downstairs and sign 2 things in our office, right? One of them was the warrant article, one of them was the default budget. I noticed that you 2 didn't sign the default budget, and I was just kind of curious as to why.
I didn't, and I mentioned this to Ellie because she asked me about it. I didn't because we didn't review it, we didn't discuss it, and I don't know why we didn't. So that was why.
The reason why I'm confused, and again, I'm new at this, I'm looking for clarification, is you both signed the warrant articles. So in the warrant articles, warrant article 9, it says we accepted the default budget, and you signed that. So it's kind of like you accepted it here and you signed it, and we voted 4-0 on Article 9 to accept the default budget. We got copies of the default budget, but yet downstairs, when we had the budget committee meeting, we had copies of the new budget and the default budget. So we had that information. And then when we voted on the warrant article for 9, the board, Chuck was absent, we voted 4-0 and accepted Article 9, accepting the default budget, but then downstairs, we didn't sign, or some of us didn't. I'm just trying to figure that out, why that happened, because we knew about it and we voted for it. Just curious.
You're right. I guess when I voted in favor of that article, I was thinking more of the budget that we were proposing.
That's why I was confused.
I wasn't thinking about the default side.
That's why I was confused on that.
Historically, the default budget is not discussed specifically, because the default budget's set by the finance director. Who knows what goes in the default budget? She knows legally what has to go in there. And I think in at least my recollection in the
Governed by
past,
statute, right.
we've never, because we can't do anything about it. I mean, other than if there was a major question, I mean, we've seen it, we know what's there. But and if let's say there was a question of why isn't police overtime or something in there, then, specifically to ask the question. But generally, as I recall, we don't spend a whole lot of time with that. And, it's the same with like revenue. We talk about it, we see it. It's the budget committee's purview to add to, take away. It's us to discuss it. But there's never been any, major conversations about the default budget. Not to say that there can't be, or there shouldn't be, but I'm just saying, historically, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion, because it's set by the finance director, and we have to, whatever, it's like the budget committee. You know, we kind of have to accept whatever they come up with. We can disagree with it, and we can change it if we wanted to, but anyway, that's just,
Well, we can't really change the default budget.
not the default, no.
It is
We
what it
could
is.
question as to why some, because before, when we, I think even last year, we looked at it, and there was some things in there, and I think it might have been her first time doing it too, trying to figure out
But
what
it's
should
set,
go in
it's
there.
set by stat, but
But it's pretty much,
DRA
yeah.
sets the
Yeah, and if
standards of
there's-
what goes
and if
in.
there's any question, like, if she's got any question with it, she would call DRA and ask them, does this go in it or not go in it?
And that's all great points, but we didn't even review it. Like, there was never even a minimal discussion about it.
Well, again, it's not the first time that we haven't, so.
Right, well, I mean, this is my second year, the first year we did review it, and then, so,
Oh, I don't,
yeah.
I don't know about that.
anyway, that's just my,
Okay, well, it is what it is. It's in there for your signatures if you change your mind or not. It's in that folder accordingly. Mrs. Faulkner. And this is related to,
It's sort of related to this. I just want to remind the Board of Selectmen that at the deliberative session, it is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to review the default budget. Now, sometimes we don't, but people have the right, not that they can change it, but it's only been for a couple of years, that this is now a requirement that the Board of Selectmen at least bring up what the default budget is at the deliberative session.
and I believe that's done through the Budget Committee, and that will be done on Saturday.
It's the selectmen's responsibility now. Again, this was changed just,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you.
I reminded the chair last year that it was a new thing, so I just want to, because it is fairly new, just have you guys prepared, and not all of a sudden have me tell you at 2 minutes to 9 that don't forget you have to do this. So that's all.
Thank you. Any other comments on the, okay, moving right along, you have the Select Board policies in RSA 91A regarding meetings. And you've got some discussion of policies, Mrs. Schwett?
So this came up a couple weeks ago. One was just getting clarification on a meeting versus a non-meeting, and when there's 3 select board members in a meeting that's not theirs. So a couple weeks ago for the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee, there were 3 select board members present, and the question was raised, is that a problem because there's 3 of us here? So, and then it goes into what constitutes a non-meeting, and can you be there as a resident as opposed to a select person? So I reached out to NHMA to get clarification, which didn't help, but that was my first mistake.
And you had another meeting, the cemetery presentation, you had 3 select people there as well.
Yes.
Yes,
That wasn't a meeting, that was a presentation.
it's okay, it's still a, say, public.
So, okay, so let me read what I got back from NHMA, because again, there's lots of conversation and interpretation.
Yeah.
And we could have this discussion till we're blue in the face. So I'm gonna read this from NHMA, and then we could decide if it helped or not. He went in, read the whole right to know law. For the purpose of this chapter, a meeting means the convening of a quorum of the membership of a public body as defined in RSA 91 TAC Alpha :1-A, or the majority of the members of such public. I'm not gonna read that whole thing. So essentially, it's first, there must be present in person or electronically a quorum of a public body. This is what constitutes a public meeting. Second, the convening of the quorum of the public body must allow all members of the public body to contemporaneously communicate with each other. So we could have a conversation, ergo making a decision possibly. Third, the purpose of the meeting must be for discussing or acting upon a matter or matters over which the public body has supervision, control, jurisdiction, or advisory power. So that's the part I get hung up on, but anyway. Although a quorum of, now he's answering my question. Although a quorum of the select board was present at the meeting, that meeting was not convened by a quorum of the select board to act on matters over which the select board has supervision and authority.
In other words, it wasn't our meeting, it wasn't a select
It
board
wasn't
meeting.
our meeting, but we do have supervision over that because they can't even control their own budget. So we do have, that's the gray area. And instead, I presume the select board had established that committee as an advisory committee to assist the select board. So that means that the select board does have authority over that committee. So he's kind of talking in circles, so that's why I'm like, I don't know why I asked the question. Therefore, a member of the select board can attend a meeting in his or her capacity as a resident of the town and not in the capacity as a select board. When there is a quorum of the select board in attendance during a town committee meeting and it wasn't noticed as a select board meeting, and the members of the select board are merely in attendance convened by another public body, that meeting is not a public meeting of the select board, and that's the crux of that, right?
So you can have 3 in one room.
So you can have 3 in another official meeting because it wasn't our meeting.
And as long as the board doesn't conduct any board business,
Right,
they could participate as a resident of the community.
Right.
right.
I think just like we talked about prior, that just to cover ourselves, because to us, maybe it's common sense, but I think any meeting that's officially posted in this town for any board, bottom paragraph, last sentence says, at any time, one or more select board members may be present at this meeting as a resident.
Does
We're
that-
residents. That way it covers everything.
Does that cover us, though?
I don't see why, I mean, it has to cover us.
I mean, as
Because
a resident, we're allowed to
unless
go.
we convene a meeting,
Yeah.
it covers us.
Yeah.
Right.
But to let the public know that board members want to attend some other meetings that they're interested in. And there's
Correct.
nothing wrong with that, and we shouldn't be disenfranchised because we sit on the select
No,
board.
we shouldn't, but we also want to make sure that the public doesn't look and go, oh, there's select board members here and they didn't notice it, right? Well, that's the
Yeah,
other
that's-
side of it, right?
Well, that's all, and you know what, I'll take those lumps.
Yeah.
I'd rather go and be educated about directly. Sometimes it's more important to do that.
Well, we're trying to make sure we can do that without making sure the public's not uncomfortable with select board members being there.
Their being uncomfortable does not take away our right to be there. Based on what-
And legality.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it happens so that they are okay with it and we can still do our job. But just to go back to the social aspect, right? The presentation wasn't a meeting. It wasn't a committee meeting. It was a social it was a presentation. So that would constitute a meeting anyway. Just like
Near did the other, because we did not convene the select
Just-
board meeting.
I think we get our answer legally, so
I think we're okay.
we're okay.
We're gonna be splitting hairs on this one, and I don't wanna do that anymore.
That's why I reached out, because we're
Yeah.
always gonna have this discussion. So, we need to figure out the best way to move forward.
Okay, and I think adding at the end of every posted agenda that one or more select board members may be present.
Does that mean they can participate?
As a resident, it's not a posted board meeting, so we cannot conduct board business. But we can participate as a resident.
Right.
And if they're not committee members, they can't vote in that committee.
Right, and there are very limited committees that even have select board members that
Right,
vote, so,
right.
right, we wouldn't be voting on it. Like, that solid waste, I wouldn't have been voting on
Right,
that.
right.
I participated in a work session, but I wouldn't have even had to do that, to be
Right.
honest with you.
I appreciate the suggestion of that tagline at the bottom, but I'm not sure that even buys us anything, really, because the only thing that really buys us anything is if we anticipate that there's going to be that there might be a quorum, and if there's going to be any possible discussion among the select board members, that we just need to post it as a meeting for ourselves.
Yeah, the only place I really see that is the budget committee, if there were 3, because we may want to, but then again, you're not voting, you're still gonna express your opinion. It's not a meeting of the select board, it's a meeting of the budget committee. And only one select board member, whoever the representative is that sits on the board, is a voting member. The others are not.
I think we have the answer legally. Long story short is if tomorrow night at 6 o'clock after dinner, I get up and I say I want to go to a meeting, and I find out there's 2 other members there, I'm still going to the meeting. Because I'm a Kingston resident, and I want to go to that meeting.
Correct.
We inquired, we have an answer legally from council.
Yep.
We're allowed to be there as a resident. We're not going to vote, but we're allowed to go and attend. And we shouldn't have to worry about who else is there.
Okay, and the matter is settled then. Okay. Public comment number,
Oh, wait, there was one other thing
Oh.
on this. It was about, recusal versus abstention, I think. I didn't print this out, so I don't, right. So I think it was, we wanted to, our policy doesn't have anything about recusal in it, and we didn't know if we needed to add clarifying what recusal meant. Like, if we recuse ourselves, we physically remove ourselves from the table? I mean, we started discussing it, so I don't know.
Right, right.
That would have been my fault, to be honest with you. So we had a budget committee meeting I was asked to attend. Chuck was sick, and I sat right where you're sitting right there. I have never been to a budget committee meeting myself. There was an issue that I had to recuse myself. I recused myself, and I sat in that chair. Going forward, after hearing what I've heard, I would get up and sit out there. However, we have the chairperson of the budget committee, we had another select person here. Everybody was here that if they thought that I should have moved, should have said, hey, you gotta move. But nobody told me and I didn't know. So that was probably my issue, that I stayed in that chair, even though I recused myself. So in the future, I will sit out there because I have not a problem in doing that.
But I think the thing about recusal is you have to do it on your own. Like, I don't even know that we can suggest that somebody recuse themselves. Can we do that?
You can. Board members can make that recommendation.
And I did recuse myself.
But the final decision is up to the individual.
Yeah. I did recuse myself, but I guess
Right.
I should have sat out there, and I didn't do that.
Well, and I think I don't want to try to assume what people are trying to do here, but, and what the suggestion is, but I don't think we have a written, as part of our policies and procedures, when one recuses themselves, what does that mean? And NHMA suggests that at the very least, the recused person sit in the audience, and sometimes they even recommend that you leave the room, because that way there's no confusion that, you know, if you're recusing because you have a financial or other interest in something, or personal interest, that you can't be construed as in any way participating in that. And so sometimes leaving the room is the right thing to do, but at the very least, going to the audience is the right thing.
well, this is an interesting discussion, and I'm going to add something to that, because I want to have it on another agenda, and that's conflict of interest. We don't have a conflict of interest clause.
Yep.
And I have a friend of mine that wants to draft some information. We were talking about something else and kind of rolled into it. So I'd like to bring something in to my colleagues to look at conflict of interest, to add it, so that may help us with the recusal, but just it broadens it, and is,
Yeah.
as the town grows and expands,
Right.
we really should be more cognizant of that,
right.
I guess is the right way to go.
And all of that stuff is related.
Correct, it is all
It's
related.
all related.
So, so we have a board guidelines and procedures. Would you want to see a separate conflict of interest?
Spelled out, yeah, I would.
Separately, right?
And I'll give you something
Okay,
that
that'd be great, yeah.
we could work with.
Okay, and then, but the recusal, would we put that in that policy, or we just put it in our general guidelines of, this is what.
I think it
recusal
would be in general
General
guidelines, because it's
guidelines,
not
yeah.
just the select board, it's
Yep.
other boards.
Right.
If somebody needs to
Correct.
recuse themselves.
That's correct.
Other boards as well, not just the select board.
Yep,
All right, good, okay, got it, thanks,
that works.
good conversation.
the select board page that you can look at, let me know if you have any. Yeah, I gave you each a copy of the select board page for the town report. I just put it in this morning. If you have any suggestions or additions, let me know. We took the picture, and I have a couple of samples for the cover that I can show you as well.
We have an application for solar exemption, solar energy exemption, facilities use for the Plain Cemetery celebration and a rain day, appointment to the Recreation Commission, and notification of the 5-year review of the superfund. Next, the only other item, we have the approval of minutes for public and non-public.
Oh, I have a couple things.
Sure.
Because we skipped over new business.
No, because there's nothing under there.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk a minute about our extra tote charges that we levy on residents if they require an extra trash tote. In the contract, it states that if a resident requires an extra trash tote, this was the original cost, is $122.40. And then it's 5% every single year. So that, if you do that, that totals the cost that we're doing now, which is $687, right? We had one not that long ago it was the end of the second year, and we charged that resident the full cost. I would like to see a prorated cost instead of, if somebody comes in the 4th year, why are we charging them for 4 years past when we should only be charging them forward, not past?
Okay, and given that we're gonna be going out to bid, we may not even have the same contract in 3 years. Or 2.5.
So I have all the numbers. So this year, actually, it costs us $134.98 for an extra tote, just for this year. Next year, it's $141, the following year is $148. So you just add those together, that would be the charge, right?
Okay.
As opposed to back charging them 2 years when they didn't use
I agree.
it.
I don't have a problem with that. Does anyone else have a problem with that? No.
Okay, so how do we want to, I don't even know how they do it. They go downstairs and they pay? I mean, we approve it.
They want to check with Paula.
They check through the DPW, but they pay at the clerk's office.
They pay at the clerk's office, but the request comes through us, so.
You have to approve it.
The request comes to us, so those numbers should be correct.
Right, so we just have to figure out what those numbers are.
Susan should send a memo to Paula and to Tim to let them know that, I mean, or if somebody comes in looking for a trash can, for the next 3 years, it's prorated to what that is, but, give them the memo so they know, they can figure out the money.
They should figure
Okay.
it out.
Check with Tom or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
Paula and Tammy both should.
Yeah.
Okay.
So would this be annual from January? So for this year to be these
Yeah,
three?
because the rate increase is January 1st of every year, so
Okay.
it's already, we're at
Yeah, 3 years.
$134.98.
Yeah, get 3 years.
We have 3 years, yeah, but
25%.
every January it's 5% more.
I
Yeah.
understand that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, anything else?
So I'm gonna bring up the wage matrix just for 1 second, because I want to do, I want to have a discussion on how we being the town and committees, handle financial data being sent back and forth between committee members. Because of the problem with the wage matrix data and getting it to the town, it raised a problem of risk that we have to not just the town, but to the people who are dealing with the data from a right to know. If for some reason the chair of the wage matrix got into a right to know problem and they needed to turn over their laptop, everybody's information, their personal email is then subject to be gone through because of right to know. So we're putting risk on the residents, and then also we're putting risk on ourselves because we don't have that data. And regardless of if the people are employees or volunteers, they're committee members and that data belongs to the town. So I'm thinking from a budget perspective or anything that deals with money currently, if there's spreadsheets, they're in people's private email. Let me finish. And
I thought you were, sorry.
And there's no good, I mean, that just opens that up. If it was in my personal email and somebody did something and now they have, and then it's a right to know because somebody requested the data, they get to go through my personal email, and I don't think we should open committee members up to that. When I spoke to Block 5 about a solution, one of them was that every committee member gets a town email address and they use the OneDrive to store the data, and they shouldn't be, then they're not subject to that in their personal email, and then also the data is available to the town. So I would like to talk through that and work through that and make it a standard practice for certain committees. That's how we handle, instead of stuff going through personal email.
I don't have any objection to that. I think it's a perfect project for the new town administrator. Wait that long, I understand that, I understand that. But we're not gonna make a decision right now. I don't know how to do that the right way. And I think that's a discussion I'd like to bring up with the department heads and have their input as to how they'd like to proceed with that. I mean, it's a big concept and a big task to implement, I think.
So how would it, just
It's,
being
what's
computer-
that?
Being computer illiterate.
Yeah. Microphone.
Just how would that, in a short version, 50 words or less?
Yeah.
What exactly, how that would work, or what, using the matrix information just for the sake of conversation.
Right, so I think the chair was the only one that doesn't have, or actually she does have a town email address, but for whatever reason she was using her personal and then storing it on her own computer, right?
The file was too big.
Well, but if it was too big on our computer, we would have had access.
That's
We wouldn't
correct.
have
Oh,
it.
yeah,
So
no,
that's the problem,
right.
Right?
Yes.
So you would just, instead of, you have a town email address, if you were, instead of the file, a spreadsheet being emailed back and forth, which is what occurs now, for budget committee as well, right? It's stored in the OneDrive, and you would receive training on how to access the OneDrive, and you're just going there and looking at the data as opposed to it being in your email.
What the hell was that?
Whoa.
Yeesh.
Earthquake.
No shit.
Yep.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's serious.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't a joke, it was serious.
That's a big one.
Wow.
Watch out for falling stuff. It looks like everything's intact.
Wow. Boy.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm waiting for the alert on the phone here. I haven't seen anything. I'm just seeing if they had anything.
Well, we'll be getting alerts on the phone pretty soon.
Yeah, that's what I just popped it up and it didn't
Yeah.
come on, so, not yet.
Wow. That's scary.
Anyway, so you would
That's the
go on.
largest one I've felt in this area.
Me too, I've not, I mean.
Access that
I've been
file
through some out on the West
separately from
Coast, but
everything
not
else.
around
Right.
here.
And you would know
like
ahead of
this.
time that particular
Yeah,
file is
California's
going to be put on
wonderful.
this +1.
Right, you would know ahead of time that file, so instead of it constantly going back and forth via email.
You'd have to look it up there.
You have to look it up there.
The person would send it there, know
They
specifically
would-
to send that
exactly.
information to you.
It would be stored there, and then that way too, it's a good version control, because if you're sending stuff back and forth via email, you don't know if you're looking at the most up-to-date one. So and then it just really goes back to the right to know. Like, do you want your personal email searched if something happens, right? You don't. I don't think anybody does. So we just need to really think about from a risk perspective, and it would be new for people for sure.
Committee chairs really should have a town
Yeah.
email address. It makes
They
sense
should,
to do
yeah.
that.
We can't force
should,
it.
yes.
We can't force it.
Go ahead, Ellen, yeah.
The answer is yes, they should.
I don't know if they're doing it, but the planning board and ZBA have their own. We looked into this for that particular reason.
Right.
The main issue, I mean, it's just gonna be like E. Faulkner at Kingston NH. It's
That's not
not
a big
really
deal.
a big issue. The only concern is that it's gonna cost you. There's a charge for it, because For the
email
email
address.
address. If the town had, not a lot, but I'm just saying there is a cost involved. So I just want to share that information with you because we did it for that exact reason for the planning board members, and then I believe they did it finally for the ZBA members. I'm not 100% sure, but I know planning board did it. for that
ZBA has
reason.
their own, each one
Yeah,
has their own.
and it's for that reason, so you don't get your own personal stuff taken away. So.
I think you'll find out that all committee chairs have a town email address, and there is no additional charges for those addresses.
Okay.
And even if it is, I mean, that cost is minimal compared to, we're opening up risk for the committee members, right?
The safety part of it is
Right,
worth
and
whatever it's gonna be.
if they have a town email address, they should be using it.
That comes directly from finance.
Correct.
Who's sitting there watching the TV screen shake with the earthquake.
Right,
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so she's actually on watching this meeting.
right. So, right, I mean, everybody, I think once you're on a committee, you should be assigned one. I don't know what the policy is, and we should have one on figuring this out so that we make sure.
Tremors.
Yeah, that we make sure people are not opening themselves up to risk they didn't even realize they were opening themselves up
So
for.
can Susan check with Block 5 and just get what needs to be done if we want to do that?
Yeah, I've done that. It's easy enough to set up an email for someone. You know, I want to check the cost. I knew I did one recently for Cindy, and it was going to be an extra charge per month on the bill, very minimal, but because they also have access to, you know, our OneDrive, whatever, so you're hooking them in.
And that would only be relevant for people who have it. The public wouldn't get to that.
Correct.
You have to have the
And-
email too.
And my question was, well, what happens if you're on the budget committee and all of the spreadsheets and all of the data, it's stored on OneDrive. Kingston owns that OneDrive, if you can own a cloud. And as soon as you are no longer a committee member, as long as we're good about letting Block 5 know to deactivate that email account, then they can no longer access the OneDrive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the one issue that I thought of too, is some of these little committees, they change a lot, so.
It's incumbent upon how well we are cleaning up our email and deactivating accounts that aren't.
Can I suggest that when we do the committee liaison appointments
Yeah.
in March, that we follow up with this and designate which person from the committee, like recreation, maybe we only need one for the director.
Absolutely.
The commission doesn't need necessarily.
Right.
So we could go through the committee structure at that point and determine who gets a town email
Yeah.
address accordingly. Budget may be a little different than the others, because for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So, and budget, planning board, and zoning.
Right,
I mean, those
right.
may be the three.
And those are the ones that I think about too, from a risk
Right.
perspective.
It's come up because the file was not kept on, this particular
Yes,
file wasn't,
and
and
so
we
I
weren't
wanna-
able to access it.
Yep.
So going forward, we want to
Yes.
preclude that problem from occurring again.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm good with that, but I think when we do the liaisons and update what we expect the liaison to do, that'll be one of her responsibilities, to transmit that information accordingly.
Yeah.
To the committee and to us as board members, and Block 5 accordingly.
Sounds great.
Does that make sense to do it that way?
While you're talking on the liaison,
Yeah,
I would like to request next month at the department head meeting, when they're all back with us again, I'd like to address this liaison. We've always talked back and forth of the responsibilities and the duties of a liaison.
yeah.
My knowledge is, my thought is, a liaison is, we have a chain of demand in these departments. People that belong to the departments, they answer to their director or their boss, or however you want to call these people, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel that a liaison should be dealing with the whole department. I think every department has a chain of command. So if somebody has an issue, now if it's an issue with the department head, then we have a different issue. The employee has to come in to the board, and we have to deal with it, right? But I think anything else should go through the department head and to the liaison. Just look at all the departments we have in town, and if a liaison is responsible to deal with all these employees, that's not really what we're supposed to be doing. I think the liaison deals with the department head, period. But we should get the input from our departments.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, maybe they
That's
can
why
tell us what they want from the
That's why I'm
liaison.
requesting that maybe we could talk next time they're with us, so we can talk about
Yeah,
this.
to the end of February, which would be before the next round of.
Correct. So we could put
assignments.
that on the agenda to deal with that. No, not to deal with it, to recommendations. To address it.
Mr. Koppelman.
So while we're on the subject of liaisons
We
and.
got too much time this morning, that's the
Way
problem.
too much time.
Well.
It's not a bad thing.
It's, and I don't want to be preachy about this, I just want to make sure the board is aware that on the boards that, not liaisons, but on boards that we have a representative as a voting member, we as a board vote on who that person is sitting in that chair. And we also vote on who the alternate is. And that's per RSA, per the RSA. And if you need the background, I can give it to you. But so if the representative, the designated rep, can't make it and the alternate sits in, then the alternate has that full voting capacity. If it's not the alternate that this board approved or voted on, then that individual's vote does not count because they're not authorized by the board to do so. In most cases, it's probably not a big deal, but if it happens to be, say, a hearing that it might be challenged legally, it opens it up for possible challenge as to a decision that would be made at that hearing.
Okay,
So
understood.
just for
reference.
clarity.
Yep,
And
thank you.
we have the list, Susan gave it to us, so.
Yeah, well,
just
there's
it's a good
surprises
reference.
in that too, but that's.
Well, thank goodness I didn't have to make a really important voting decision. Because she was sick and asked me to attend, and I said, and to be honest with you, Glenn, I wish you saw that and called me up and said, hey, Pete, I'm the alternate. I said, hey.
And I'm just as glad not to be there, but because the next day
I like those meetings, believe it or not.
The next day I watched the video and I said, oh man, something isn't right here. And I went back, I looked at the list and said, okay, all right. Anyway, just.
Okay, you done?
We're done.
Anything else to come before us besides the minutes?
I'm assuming that the abatement has been signed
Check,
off by
yeah,
whoever has
yes,
checked it
it's
off.
in
I
here.
haven't seen the invoice.
Here's that one. Are you done with this one?
I haven't done it yet, but go right ahead. No, go ahead, I'll do it after you.
Could I have a motion in the minutes for public and non-public, please? In a second?
Well, we had a couple of different,
You have three, I believe.
well, there are public and,
Non-public.
but, yeah. There's two different dates, though.
Oh, okay,
All
that's the
right.
difference.
So we have public and non-public for January 3rd, I'm sorry,
January 13th. Yes,
and then the 20th, okay.
and then,
So we have public and non-public for January 13. I'll make the motion to approve those.
okay, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
And a motion to approve the non-public from January 20.
Okay, second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Do we have to act on this Chinburg, or is this just, that's the
That's
planning board?
FYI.
FYI? Okay, thank you.
And Susan, when did you need feedback on this town report? So everything's due to you by Friday, right?
Yes.
If not sooner.
Yeah, I want to send it to the publisher next week, so I am waiting on a few. I'll be sending out reminders. So, yeah. I can communicate.
Reminder to everybody at home, deliberative session this Saturday, February 1st, at 9 o'clock here at the town hall. Your chance to have a say. Then if there's no objection, 36. Good job, everybody.
Thank you, I think that was a very proactive meeting, great.
Covered a lot of ground.
Yes, we did.
I'm looking at a text string now between our neighbors and my husband. Earthquake?
Yeah.
I believe so. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried our house was falling down.